We're going to be talking about climate change here in Brooklyn, New York, Coney Island, and Seagate specifically. We're at the aquarium and we are talking with people from Coney Island Beautification Project who put this workshop together, led by Pamela Pettyjohn. There are also people there from the aquarium, as well as Cornell University, Emergency Management, the Mayor's Office, and many others. There's money on the table. 40% of federal dollars are supposed to be earmarked for environmental justice communities, and this certainly is an environmental injustice community, as Pamela Pettyjohn likes to call it. My name is Annette Fisher. I am a resident here in the Seagate neighborhood for 44 years. I've seen a couple of hurricanes, Gloria, and then the December 92 nor'easter, which did flood my house. And then, of course, there was Sandy, which didn't just flood it, but trashed it. And then, of course, there was the challenge of working with Build It Back because the federal flood insurance I had paid for was refusing to pay the claim. So you have to get involved. You have to know what's going on. You have to know who the people are that are in charge of whatever it is, their portion of this puzzle. So you should come out. If you didn't make this one, make the next one. There's a lot to learn, and your input is very important. We'll get started in just a moment.
Thank you all for being here. We're really, really excited to be hosting this event, and I know it's a little early on a Saturday morning for some of us, but really appreciate the energy in the room. My name is Lee Clayton. I'm the director here at the New York Aquarium. I've been in the role about 14 months now, and one of the things I have really enjoyed the most about New York Aquarium and Coney Island is this work in the climate resiliency space, and I'm delighted that we can help convene these meetings. I really want to note and thank the partnership and the guidance that's coming from the Coney Island Beautification Project and Pamela Pettyjohn, who many of you probably know. And Georgie, yes, over there are really spearheading this and have been focused on this sort of work for a very long time. In addition, I want to thank Cornell University for their partnership in this work. And you'll be hearing a lot more from the students and the professors there shortly. We've definitely got an exciting program ahead. It's going to be a big day. And I also want to acknowledge the Mayor's Office and others in the city of New York for being present and supporting this work that's happening here. The impacts of climate change look different in different places, and certainly in New York City and certainly in Coney Island, we are realizing that flooding from routine hard rainstorms is one of the biggest issues we're facing on a day-to-day basis. Certainly Hurricane Sandy gave us all who were here, or organizations that were here, a whole other view of what climate change could mean. But in terms of day-to-day, I think we all are seeing that it is the weather events, whether it be heavy rains, or extended periods of high heat, are some of the issues that we are most acutely facing in the coming days, weeks, months, and years. So really just thank you all. Everyone in this room, you have an important perspective and your own expertise, and we want to bring that to the table as we continue to work with everyone here to develop solutions. Not just talk about what the issues are, but what are we going to do? What can Coney Island and the residents who know Coney Island best put forward? So it's about finding our voices and being at the table for these conversations. So thank you all, and with this, I'm turning it over to Pamela again.
Okay.
Well, I want to say good morning again, and thank you so much for coming out. And this is our third workshop that we've had here in Coney Island. We started October, and we had one in December. And our next one will be April 27th. And I see some people have been here for everyone. But I want to just say why you're here and why we're conducting these workshops. I had an opportunity to be at the UN one day, and I listened to this young student present to the UN. She was a Columbia student, and she was indigenous to Alaska. And she talked about how people would come to Alaska, they would study, they would get their degrees, and then they would leave, and nothing changed and nothing happened. But the people, the indigenous people, who have been taking care of the land for the last 1,000 years. No one spoke to them because they didn't have degrees, so they didn't think that there was any knowledge to be shared. Well, I feel the same way she does. My community is the one that knows that they are the experts. I can ask any one of you, where does it flood? Which way is that water gonna flow? Where is the hottest in Coney Island? And you can tell me. So what we wanna do is we wanna hear from you. The purpose of all of this is that we looked at in the beginning at the Army Corps of Engineers plan for Coney Island, and we didn't think it was suitable, and it wouldn't be to our benefit to just adapt it the way it was. So instead of saying, I don't want this, I don't want that, the question is, what do you want? What is needed in Coney Island? So that was why we convened these conversations, and why we have people in the room, the students, they're here to help us. We have professionals here in the room to help us to come up with a plan that we can actually present to the Army Corps of Engineers. We can present it to the mayor's office. We can possibly get funding for some of the projects that we know are needed here in Coney Island through the Environmental Bond Act. And with all the money that's coming out of Washington right now through the Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA, and the fact that, and we've had this conversation with the group about Justice 40, and what that means is that 40% of all the money coming out of Washington right now has to be invested in environmental justice communities, and this is a historically environmental injustice community. So we are eligible. But if you don't know these things, if you don't know these programs, and this money is there, then this money is gonna go to another community. And the people that have a plan, they're the ones that get funded. So we wanna make sure that Coney Island has a plan. So thank you so much for coming, and I'm going to introduce our community residents here. And because they have, well, I'm gonna introduce Roseanne DeGennaro first. Roseanne has been, she's been living in Coney Island for 51 years. Yes. So Roseanne can tell you, she lives in Seagate, but she can talk about the perspective from all of Coney Island. She's here and witnessed all the changes that have been, climate change and flooding, but she has a wealth of information, and I'm going to turn it over to Roseanne, so please give her a warm welcome.
I mean, it would rain hard, you put your boots on and you would go out. But that day, I said to myself, what did I get myself into? But I love it here, wouldn't change, raised my daughters, they love it, they love Coney Island, they love the beach, they love the boardwalk, and they went to school here, and we're very involved in all of Seagate and Coney Island, because we're really all one. So when I came here, and we rode into Coney Island, it was quite a different scene. There was no Scheuer House on West 37th Street and Surf Avenue. There was no Sea-Rise apartments on Neptune and 37th Street. The houses in Bayview weren't here. We call them the new houses that came up in Coney Island, but I guess they're not new anymore, but years go by and you really don't, think about it. They weren't here. It was different. It was different. I think there was a lot of land that was able to absorb some of this water maybe. I don't know. I'm not an engineer. I have no idea, but that's just my thinking. So then what happened during the years, the flooding seemed to get worse in Seagate and here. And about 30 years ago, my daughter was in the 6th grade at 188. Her friends begged us, oh, can't we go out for lunch? Can't we go out for lunch? We're already in the 6th grade. So we said, sure. So I'm inside volunteering, and she comes running back after about a half hour. She says, she said, Mary was jumping over the puddle that was by the basin on West 35th Street, and she didn't see the car coming, and the car didn't see her coming. So she was hit by that car. It was minor injury, but psychologically that lasts you forever. So now it just the little basin there that gets full of water. It's the whole street.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, this past week when it rained, I was out and my daughter calls me from the house. She says, Mom, don't go through Neptune Avenue. Because if you go through Neptune Avenue, you're going to hit the flood on West 35th Street. And that's what happens. Every time we have a heavy rain, we have flooding there. And it's horrible. Even the cars. And I have an SUV, and she still told me, no, don't go through. So I didn't go through. So that was that storm. It wasn't even a storm the other day. Then on December 11th, 1992, a nor'easter hit Coney Island. I remember that I was getting ready to send my daughters off to school, and the phone rings. It was the office manager in Seagate. I was on the board at that time, and I was in charge of the emergency committee, which we never had to use. That day we had to use it. She called me and she said, please come in. You have to do something. I looked outside and said, oh yeah, look at that flooding. So then what happened was, I said, how am I gonna get there? My daughter, the adventurous one, says, oh, Ma, I can tell you how to get there. I'll go with you, don't worry. You go through the backyards of all the people in the middle, because it doesn't flood as much in the middle. And there I was. I even went over a fence in those days. I guess I was able to do it. I couldn't get it. And we got to the office. When I got to the office, we had a couple of inches of water already in there. Okay? And we were there because we wanted to take care of the people that live there that might be calling and needing maybe Con Edison or the police or an ambulance. So that's what we were there for. While I was there, I got a call. Now, the office to Seagate is right on West 37th Street. On the other side is Sir Solomon Senior Center. I get a call from the director. She says, you got to do me a favor. She said, I don't know what it's like there, but I got as far as Mark Twain. Wow. And when I got to Mark Twain, I couldn't go any further. The water was too high. She says, I know there's 2 seniors that come there before 7 o'clock to set things up. Could you keep in contact with them? I said, sure. So that's what I did all day, and they wouldn't leave. They were so no, it's going to go down, don't worry. Well, it wasn't going down, it was coming up. So finally, by 4 o'clock, I was able to get them to come out. And how did they get out? The police came with this gigantic, tremendous some kind of truck or something. They carried them out and they took them. Wow. That building was so bad that day, when they came back afterwards and the water went down, there was fish in the building. Wow. So somehow somebody left the window open, I guess, and the fish came in. We actually saw the waves coming over and almost hitting the Seagate building that day. Wow. So it was bad. So that was that storm. Then we come to Sandy. And I don't have to say too much about Sandy because everybody here really experienced Sandy. I was a little luckier than some people. I got 8 feet of water in my house. So I wasn't as bad. I was only out for like a month and a half. I had another daughter who I was allowed to stay at. And the best thing is nobody in my house wanted to leave. And the only reason they left is because my daughter came and she had a 3-day-old baby. And I said, if you don't leave, you're putting her in danger. And that's why we left. But there were people that now I know, this lady said she had to have her house. It had to be, they had to put up the house. We had people that lost their houses. And by the way, back in that storm in 92, which I didn't mention, I'm sorry, we had a house that went down into the water. Okay? So it's bad. It's bad at that end. It's bad in the middle of Coney Island. The flood zone that we're in it's just horrible. So that was that. I think about what could be the problems. What is this? Part of it is Mother Nature. We're here. We're surrounded by water. But I also think it's the sewers here, because at some point, the sewers can't take it. These sewers are antiquated. I told you the buildings we didn't have. when I came through that first day? Well, not only do we have those, which are fine, we have new ones. And I know it's important, but it's the sewers. They're not going to be able to take them. So I really feel that something has to be done about the sewers. Now, I said that Seagate was the most western end of Coney Island Peninsula. Are we a private community? Because that's what I hear a lot. Yeah, we are. We're private. But think of us as a horizontal co-op. We pay taxes like everybody else to New York City, and quite a bit of taxes, and then we pay our own dues. But we do pay taxes, okay? So we are all part of this whole peninsula. So we have a chain link fence, but we don't have a wall, which we don't want to have a wall. I'm not suggesting that. But that chain link fence, the water goes both ways. So when it storms, both of us we are absolutely always one, but it cements that one together, okay? So we want to be part of the table, the discussion. We want to give our opinions, which I thank you for inviting us here today to give part of that. And like I said, I'm so involved with Coney Island, and everybody knows that I'm involved with the hospital. That's another thing. When it floods, how are we going to get our ambulances in here and to the hospital? We're not going to. So something has to be done for so many reasons. And I know that they're going to be putting in these, flood watch sensors, okay? We need one at the most western end of this peninsula. We are Norton's Point. We actually, in our part of the Coney Island community, is surrounded by 3 sides of water. When that water comes in, it's going to come into Seagate, and it's going to go right out those chain link fence, and you're going to get it all over. So we feel that we do need sensors there. So I want to thank Pamela and Noah again for doing what we want to do, bring this community together. Thank you all.
Interpreters in the room. So we have Russian, okay, if anyone needs. We have Cantonese. We have Spanish. There you are. So if anybody needs interpreters, and if I'm going to ask the speakers, if you see one of our interpreters raise their hand, means that they need you to repeat something or slow down. But anyway, as we'll go on with the program, the next person I'd like to introduce is Deborah. And Deborah has been here. Let me get this. Let me make sure I get this year right. 47.
51.
Oh, I knew somebody was 51. 51. And she has been in this community. She works at one of the daycare centers, so she works with young people, and she's had her own experiences, which she's going to share now. Okay, give her a warm welcome, please. I didn't tell me your last name.
Okay. My name is Deborah Blow. I have, first of all, let me say good morning to everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, Saturday mornings are kind of rough for me. When you work with children 5 days a week,
Yeah.
you look for Saturday mornings. When the kids say, tomorrow, what day is it? Friday. Do we come to school on Friday, Saturday? No, yeah, we don't. But I just would like you to know, when my parents moved here in 1964, I was 2 years old. I'm gonna share what I grew up in this neighborhood. When my parents moved here, they brought a 9-room house. I can tell you exactly the address that we lived at on 27th Street. Was 2845 West 27th Street, between Mermaid and Neptune. I say that to say, I walked the boardwalk to work in the spring, part of the fall, and some of the winter. I work on 16th Street. I work for Catholic Charities, Charles F. Murphy Head Start program. I teach children from the age of 3 and 4. Now, I get to see the beauty of the boardwalk in the morning, the water, but the water can be somewhat very dangerous too. You know, when those floods came, especially when Sandy came, it was horrific. I lost just my car, but I'm gonna share what my sister lost, because my sister lives on 36th Street in Canal, in a house, and it was rough. She had pots trying to get the water out, and the more that she was trying to get the water out, the water was coming in. And she's right there on the corner, on 36 in Canal. And she lost everything. She had to leave her house for a good, I think 4 to 5 months. Thank God her daughter lives out here. She was able to go live with her daughter for a while her house had to be gutted out, redone, and everything. And I'm thinking to myself, when my parents moved here in 1964, I don't remember no floods like that. Cosmo went to school with me, and he could tell you, we didn't have floods like this.
We had snowstorms.
There was no storms like this. We had snowstorms, but we had no storms like this. And when Georgina and Pam asked me to be on this panel, at first I was resistant. I didn't really want to do, because I'll come to the meeting, I'll give my opinion, I'll teamwork with you, but I like to be in the background. But then I thought about it, I was like, you said the mayor office? Okay. So anybody from the mayor office, raise your hand. Are you listening to me? Are you hearing me? Okay. You can ask me any questions after, okay? Because I'm going to ask you some questions now. So the other day when it rained, I just happened to go down Mermaid Avenue. I seen, as I got past 23rd, that's when I seen floods. I'm on surf between 29th and 30th. I looked across the street, the car was halfway submerged in water, right? And the thing about when you own a car out here and you have these floods, you're saying to yourself, where can I park where my car I will not lose my car? Because I was so devastated with Sandy. I know I was thinking about my sister, and I know these are just material things, but I was like, my husband had just died. The car that I had, he had just bought me for my birthday in April. And I was 4 months away from finished paying it off. I was devastated. And I was like, how did this happen? And I'm saying to myself in my mind, I don't remember no floods growing up in Coney Island like this. Then the other day when the rain came, I go and I look at the sewage. We gotta do better with those sewage, guys. Because even, I don't know if it's a way they could be cleaned out periodically, maybe 2 to 3 months, because they're clogging up, especially in the fall, because you have the leaves falling, the leaves are going down. And one day I was telling somebody, I seen someone who has a restaurant out here take oil and pour it in the sewer. And I was like, OMG, and I was like, that is not good. And how many other people do stuff like that? We don't know. That's why the sewers need to really be clean, because these storms are gonna come. Climate change, we're not taking care of our earth. Mother Nature say, you don't take care of me, I'm not gonna take care of you. That's just, and that's what my children say to me in my classroom. I try to explain to them how to take care of Mother Nature, how to appreciate the earth. And because between the climate changes are going to bring about different activities within our environment. And we need to do better. We really do. We need to come together, as Pamela says. We need to come together and find a solution to these flood problems. Not only the floods, when the heat comes, we need to come together and figure out a way, because we all need each other. As my mother used to tell me, the right hand and the left hand goes together to wash the face. And that's what we need now. No matter where you live, Seagate, Neptune, Mermaid, Surf, we are all in this together. Black, brown, white, yellow, whatever. Green, blue, whatever. We are all in here together. So you can't sit in your house or sit in your little community and say, oh, that's not going to affect me. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. It does. And it makes me very upset when I see people that think, oh, that doesn't bother me. I don't have that. That's not my problem. Yes, it is your problem. The sewer problem is your problem. Because we all live in here together. When the floods come, water doesn't discriminate. Floods don't discriminate. Heat doesn't discriminate. Regardless of who you are. Rich, poor, doesn't discriminate. And unfortunately, death doesn't discriminate. Thank you.
Deborah, thank you so much. And our last community panelist is Edwin Cosme, which a lot of you probably know. He has businesses here on Mermaid Avenue. He has the hair salon on between 17th and 19th. Happy to have Edwin Cosme to speak to us today. Thank you.
Good morning. I want to thank Pamela Pennington, Pettyjohn, Noah Chesson, and New York Aquarium for hosting this event workshop program with hopes that we can all devise a resiliency plan in order to minimize and lessen the impact, just like the ones that many of our residents and local businesses had experienced during Superstorm Sandy. On Monday, October 29th, 2012, at approximately 7:30 p.m., Superstorm Sandy began to make landfall here in Coney Island, leading to its indiscriminate path of destruction that had adversely annihilated and obliterated many of our institutions, businesses, and properties alike. Many people had endured death, injury, and many of our lives were turned upside down during those chilling hours. We soon witnessed and realized firsthand the next morning the path of destruction that Sandy left behind was monumental. The effects of public health, public safety, was beyond bearable. I myself still bear the psychological and emotional effects of the catastrophic abyss of that day. I pretty much want to sum up a brief narrative of how many of our neighborhoods, of our neighbors and local businesses were thunderstruck in the days, months, and even years that followed. Even up to this day, we continue to identify the restorations of some of the New York City nitrogen heating plant systems in our community some 12 years after Sandy. The days that follow Sandy, Coney Island neighbors lay dormant and absent of any mobilization of public safety measures. For the first 72 hours after Sandy made landfall, many of our local businesses were looted. Crime was rampant, increasing, and pervasive. Not by the day, but by the hour. and a thought and a feeling of anarchy began to settle in, began to filter into our neighborhood. Our local emergency first responders were non-responsive, as many of our local firehouse, police department, and local Coney Island hospitals were literally uprooted off their foundations and severely damaged. With no power, many of our lines of communications were inoperable, with no immediate government mobilization plan in place at that time. It felt that we was left to fend for ourselves. An apparent delay by the mayor, the NYPD, a call for a level 3 mobilization, and a delay by the governor to call up the National Guardsmen was causing mayhem. Relief aid, public safety, and first responders efforts were all critical elements in addressing the immediate needs for many families and institutions and infrastructures that were uprooted. I want to fast forward to the $51 billion relief aid package. That package was delayed for several months, that I felt compelled, along with some of my friends from the Rockaways, Jill Coney, Peter Corliss, Michael Shafaro, Santa Claus Sandy Shafaro. I felt compelled to hold a rally and organize a rally here in Coney Island, on the west end of Coney Island, right along to Deborah's sister's property along Canal Avenue. My sister also had owned a property there on Canal Avenue. We called this rally Walk a Mile in My Shoes, which was comprised of more than 100 homeowners, local businesses. We all walked hand in hand. We marched along the washed out ruins of Coney Island, along Neptune Avenue, Mermaid, and Surf Avenue. In weeks to follow, I was invited, along with my friends Jill Coney, Peter Corliss, by then U.S. Congressman Peter King, who was the chair of the House Homeland Security Committee at that time, along with many friends from the Rockaways and Garrison Beach, to attend the $51 billion Superstorm Sandy Hurricane Relief Aid Bill at the U.S. Capitol. That was on January 29th, 2013, some 3 months later. In the aftermath of disaster such as Sandy, what have we learned? How do we evaluate risk management, risk assessments, the risk level for a given disaster? It is imperative to plan ahead and to prearrange and to have an open line of communications.
Now, I just want you all to know that I did not ask anyone to speak about anything in particular, but you'll hear that they all kind of spoke about the same thing. And I can say that I know that I'm still traumatized, and it sounds like my neighbors are still traumatized. But one thing that I wanted to bring up before we do the introduction is that we are not plagued just by storm surge. That is what the Army Corps of Engineers is looking at. They're looking at an 11, almost 12-year-old storm, and they're preparing for storm surge. We are dealing with everyday flooding, sea level rise, water coming up to the sewer lines. You know, there's so many different types of flooding. And so, yeah, and air quality. And this community is suffered a lot from lung disease that we didn't have before Sandy. So I just want to make sure I recognize that. But before we go any further, I'm Elijah, we're going to introduce you in just 1 minute, but I wanted to personally thank my guests, for the city for coming out to share with us programs that we would not have known about if they hadn't come. There are so many new programs. There are things available that can help us, and they're going to share this information with us today. And I'm going to let Noah do the introductions, and I want to thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Pamela, and thank you to the residents that have joined us for the panel and for everybody here today. On behalf of the aquarium, I work with Lee and other members of the staff, and we're really honored to provide a forum to listen and to learn about how, as a strong community partner, we can support the residents and the needs of the residents to address flooding. And as I know these very personal and emotional stories, the water that came through your living rooms came to the aquarium, and so we see the solutions that work for the residents will help the aquarium, and we want to be here to stand with you, to support you, and to advocate with you. And so, the ongoing discussions, it's important that we wanted to start with the residents' perspective first, as the knowledge keepers and to share your experience, and we definitely appreciate what you three have done today and what everybody in the room is doing throughout the meeting. We also wanted to provide a chance for our local leaders to share the resources and the programs that are available so that as the community identifies our needs, we can communicate and have conversation with our government officials because it is so important to understand what's available to help shape what the community wants and needs, both what's available and what else is needed further. So today we have several speakers from the Mayor's Office of Climate and Environmental Justice, and I want to really give them the time to describe the available programs. We have the Executive Director, Elijah Hutchinson, and then also the Deputy Executive Director, Paul Lazito, who will also be speaking later. This is a chance to learn and listen, but also to engage in dialogue, and we very much appreciate having the Mayor's Office join us this morning and for the ongoing collaborations and conversation that we can have ongoing from today. So thank you very much, Elijah.
A bigger table. Thank you so much to the aquarium, to Pamela, to Georgie, to our residents here. This is an incredible community, and to have this kind of advocacy and infrastructure and people who care about climate is something I hope we would see across all communities in New York City. And unfortunately, we don't always, and you're absolutely right, we all need to care because this impacts us in so many different ways. And while climate itself doesn't discriminate and death doesn't discriminate, we're a new Office of Climate and Environmental Justice, and one of the first things we're seeing, and what we already know and you already know, is that these issues do impact disadvantaged communities, Black and Brown communities, underserved communities, the elderly population, the most in New York City. And we can see that in the numbers, we can see that in the feedback that we get. So it's really important that we center environmental justice within our climate agenda going forward. And that's one of the big changes that we've made within this administration to create this new Mayor's Office of Climate and Environmental Justice. I went into a little bit about who we are already, but I wanted to zoom out even more and talk about Plan YC, Getting Sustainability Done. That's the city's strategic plan that focuses on climate adaptation and covers a range of initiatives across the city with our city agency partners. We're going to talk a little bit about coastal resilience, Coney Island Creek, Climate Strong Communities, which is a program that we have to work with communities to collect feedback and get ideas for resilience projects. Some resources that we have available that I want to make sure everybody knows about. And then time for questions as well before we get into lunch and the workshops where we'll be collecting additional feedback. I wanted to also thank the city agency partners that are in the room today. If you are from an agency, if you could just raise your hand. We have, if you want to introduce yourself for, yeah, just.
Farrell, and I'm the Deputy Commissioner for the Bureau of Coastal Resilience, which is a bureau that was just created a few months ago within the Department of Environmental Protection.
Emergency management here as well.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Jill Cornell from New York City Emergency Management.
Great. That was Department of City Planning, the Brooklyn office.
Now you've heard from several of the people living in the Coney Island community, as well as Noah over at the aquarium. Of course, Pamela Pettyjohn from Coney Island Beautification, who coordinated all of this. This is part 3 in the series on climate change, and part 3 will continue also in the next video. The next video will have actual resources, whereas this first part was all about the people, the past, and what has happened and what is continuing to happen. So please see the next video.